Today, property in the record books for all the wrong reasons. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Welcome to this post covering finance and property news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Domain published an interesting article just before Christmas, looking in particular at the Sydney property market and saying it's one for the record books. To which I respond, maybe, but it's for all the wrong reasons. Sue Williams wrote that space, the final frontier, or for those in the Sydney property market over the past year, the financial frontier, for the biggest trend in pandemic-plagued 2021 has turned out to be the demand for more room in and around our homes. It's really been the year when we reimagined the space in our houses and apartments, said Domain Chief of Research and Economics, Nicola Powell. We wanted to have areas in our homes where we can work, and spending so much time indoors during lockdowns, we wanted more living space where we weren't all on top of each other. That's really driven a lot of the price growth of houses over that of apartments. But another big surprise of the year has been the price growth of 3-bedroom units. Generally, the greater number of bedrooms, the more prices have risen. It's been a strange year in so many ways. With rock-bottom interest rates continuing, no sooner did escalating property prices smash all previous records than they were smashed once again 3 months later, with unprecedented back-to-back quarters of price rises over 8%. And as first-time buyers flooded back into the market in 2020, they were suddenly washed back out again by the pricing tsunami, with investors diving in to take their place. Many were only able to dip their toes in early 2021 because of the bank of mum and dad. Parents were gifting their children cash for the deposits rather than going guarantor, said Marcus Roberts, founder of mortgage brokers Brighter Finance. There were reports earlier in the year that parental contributions are averaging more than $89,000, which is an increase of nearly 20% over the last 12 months. By the way, that's DFA data. Other versions of this see parents allowing their children to pay zero rent or pay significantly discounted rental rates on properties owned by the parents. At times, it was hard for anyone to keep up as Sydney registered the fastest annual pace of price growth on record, reaching a median house price of $1.5 million, with apartments exceeding the landmark $800,000. High-end new developments such as the Opera Residence also sold at record high prices. Today, residential property now sits as the biggest asset class in Australia, worth an incredible $9 trillion, with 38% of that bulk within New South Wales. While in the 1970s a house cost 7 times the average salary, it will now set the regular buyer back by 12.5 times their median yearly income, according to the latest ANZ CoreLogic Housing Affordability Report. Sydney home buyers will now need to save for more than 16.5 years to amass the usual 20% deposit for a home after this year's 30.4% rise in house prices. I think the most interesting thing this year has been that my house made more money than I did, said Tim McKibben, Chief Executive of the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales, and I wouldn't be alone there. There'd be many, many people in the same boat. But everything, everywhere is becoming unfathomable, and for many first home buyers, that Australian dream of buying their first home is getting further and further out of their grasp, which is troubling. For a lot of others, their mortgages are blowing out too with the cheap cost of money. At the top end of the market, prices increased even faster, with a settlement on sales of new apartments at Barangaroo cementing the CBD Harbour Foreshores Place as one of the top prestige addresses in the country. It's already had a foothold on the claim historically, thanks to the Bennelong Apartments, the Toaster, and again when the Opera Residences set a record at more than $26 million, with the wealthy businessman and philanthropist Robert Saltari and his wife Kelly's purchase, said Lucy Mackin of Domain's Title Deeds. Then a new record was set by a mystery buyer who bought the top 3 levels of Lend-Lease Tower 1, Sydney Harbour, for $140 million. But there is something more certifying about settlements, and this year's completion of One Crown residences next door showed multiple purchases of more than $40 million, even if James Packer is yet to settle on his $50 million pad. For houses, Woollahra finally claimed a place on Sydney's trophy market. It was already a well-to-do eastern suburb, but given the nature of its historic housing, it has never entered that $20 million trophy home market until Kerry-Anne Kennelly scored $22 million for her house. That shocked property watchers, Mackin said, as did the sale of Rosemont just a few weeks ago at $45 million by Margot Legge-Borrell, although that was more understandable given the size of the estate. Meanwhile, a new record for the Inner West was set by the $25 million sale of a waterfront estate at Abbotsford by the Bose family, who'd owned it for nearly 80 years, while the Northern Beaches smashed its own with a $27 million purchase in Palm Beach. The North Shore chalked up a $24 million sale at Northwood, the Upper North Shore a $16 million sale at Killara, and Southern Sydney an $8.38 million at Sandringham. The exodus from Sydney was accelerated by COVID-19 with a rush to sea change and tree change destinations, as well as to the regions and outer suburbs as technology helped with the transition to remote working. This drove prices upwards in many of the key lifestyle hotspots like Byron Bay, which outpriced even Sydney with a $1.55 million median and set off strong rises in other New South Wales favourites like Orange, Karma, Bellingen and Lismore. I'd never thought I'd see the day when we were more expensive than Sydney, said Glenn Irwin, director of Byron Bay Real Estate Agency, but now I expect that to continue. We've had so many people coming here and they fall in love with it and they're never going to go back. And we have such a shortage of properties compared to cities like Sydney and Melbourne, prices will continue to go up as people discover how great life is here. Many people also built holiday homes with the money saved by not travelling, with a recalibration of high-end values in traditional weekender areas like Palm Beach, Doral and the Southern Highlands. We've had a lot of people buying here from Sydney and prices across the area are generally up by about 25% as a result, said Anita Rolvek, principal of Agent Stone Southern Highlands. Then we've seen a lot of people relocating here permanently. They've been reevaluating their lives and want a more relaxed time and a village lifestyle in places like Exeter or Burrawang. As for 2022, most experts agree that the pace of price growth is likely to slacken, with a great deal more supply coming now online and record numbers of back-to-back listings. So in summer and autumn, there will be better buying conditions and people who missed out before might have more chance next year, said Dr. Powell. Demand will certainly slow down. That will come sooner rather than later if the interest rate rises towards the end of 2022 or the Australian Prudential Regulatory Authority tightens the regulations still further. Already, they've said that from last month, buyers' borrowing capacity needs to be assessed at 5.5% instead of a loan rate of, say, 2.5%, and that could be tightened further still. A lot of clients are now asking, is my borrowing capacity less? As their first question, Roberts said. This will most likely hit first home buyers the hardest, as they're generally borrowing more than somebody who is already in the market and are moving on to their next property. But it could affect everyone in one way or another. And Australia's two biggest property markets have ended the year with a sharp slowdown, Domain says, as a post-lockdown surge in homes for sale gives buyers greater choice and eases the fear of missing out. A jump in properties for sale in both Sydney and Melbourne in recent months has resulted in less competition for homes, putting downward pressure on auction clearance rates and reining in tepid price growth. And it also sees some agents set to work through the holiday period as they try to clear their books before more homes are listing next year. But the influx of homes hitting the market has not evenly been spread. figures show, with new property listings last month up by more than 2/3 since lockdown in some pockets, while other regions saw a more marginal lift. The Parramatta region has seen the biggest jump in Sydney, Domain data shows, with the number of homes listed for sale in November 88% higher than in September when the city was in lockdown. New listings in the Blacktown region and the inner southwest, covering suburbs like Bankstown and Hurstville and Kogarah, were also more than 2/3 higher last month than they were in September. All three regions were among the areas of concern subject to harshest restrictions during lockdowns, which saw supply obliterated in parts of Western Sydney. But by comparison, new listings in the eastern suburbs were down just 2% last month compared to September, pulling back from the initial post-lockdown spike, while listings on the North Shore and Northern Beaches were up 6% and 11% respectively. Ray Faved, Group Principal of Lang Simmons Parramatta, Granville and Oatlands, said that there's been a big surge in listings which was levelling out the market and easing buyer urgency. It's coming just before Christmas, so we'll be rolling our listing all the way through. We won't be taking a break, which is not normal, but I think we're going to have to, he said, adding solicitors have been lined up to handle transactions over the break, with both buyers and sellers keen to get deals done over the usually quieter period. Many of those listed their homes in recent months have simply delayed plans to sell during lockdown when open homes and public auctions were off the table. However, others were looking to capitalise on the market's rapid price growth, Fayed said, adding, everyone is trying to time the top of the market. Selling agent Joel Hollings of McGrath, Blacktown, felt price growth had capped out 8 weeks ago with the surge in homes for sale, but stressed he was not seeing prices fall. While properties were drawing less competition and sometimes taking longer to sell, deals were still being done, he said, with larger homes in particular still in strong demand. And there is more stock to come, with Star Partners Blacktown director Mark Vella saying appraisals have been flowing, with plenty more booked for this week and next, with vendors keen to hit the market in the new year. During lockdown, the biggest issue we had was that hardly any homes were on the market, which is what drove prices to the ridiculous levels they reached. Then heaps more stock came onto the market, which probably softened things a little, he said. Pockets of regional New South Wales also saw strong spikes, with listings climbing more than 50% in both the capital region surrounding the ACT and the Richmond Tweed region on the New South Wales north coast. And parts of regional Victoria also saw spikes, with new listings in the Warrumbul and Southwest region 58% higher last month than they were in September, and new listings in the Latrobe Gippsland region were up by 24%. In Melbourne, it was the city's inner south, covering the likes of Hampton, Brighton and Sandringham, which saw the biggest increase, with new listings up 67% since September. Marshall White director and auctioneer John Baragaro said the market had gone through a shift some 4 to 5 weeks ago as more homes were listed for sale. While A-grade properties, those with wow factor, were still hotly contested, homes that didn't tick all the boxes had become more price sensitive as buyers became more discerning amid increased options. Those homes that were not absorbed by buyers over the Christmas period would sell in the new year, but would need to be priced appropriately, with a healthy supply of new homes expected next year. And he added the increase in stock was good news for buyers and likely to result in a balanced market in 2022, noting the conditions seen in the past year have been unsustainable. The inner south was followed by the outer east and inner east, where listings were up 54% and 50% respectively. Paul Fenich of McGrath Croydon said new listings climbed in October and November before slowing down in December, but were still up at least 20% compared with what was typical in his market at this time of year. The market had been slower at the top end as a result, with homes taking longer to sell, as the increase in supply gave buyers more chance to take their time. Buyers are not rushing in to buy as fast as they were, he said, adding fears the market may come back a bit next year were also making buyers wary of overpaying. Listings were up by less than 20% in the city's southeast and west, by 13% in Bendigo and Geelong and 4% in Ballarat. Now, the point I want to make here, and remember that this is coming from Domain, who are very pro-property, of course, is that the markets are changing significantly. Certainly listings are rising, certainly lending is tighter, and of course the expectation is that interest rates will be higher over the next year. So that is definitely going to make a change in the weather with regard to property. But I want to underscore again that it does depend where you look, what type of property you're looking at, and frankly, the reporting of that very top-end stuff that Domain loves to focus on is a really big misdirection because it's such a small share of the total market. We should be looking in more detail at the more average properties, both units and houses. And many of those, particularly away from the coast, are definitely fading away. So keep an eye on what's going to happen, but recognise again, prices grew because interest rates were cut, government stimulus flowed through, and when COVID came to play, that changed behaviour quite significantly. Ahead, rates are likely to be higher, lending is likely to be tighter, and COVID is still there. So we are in a level of uncertainty that I don't think I've seen before as we enter the new year. Expect the unexpected, but don't expect significant booms in prices like we saw over the last year. At least, that's my view at the moment. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.